Welcome in to just another episode of Sport Ball. I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, are my two degenerate gambling friends who I don't even have to ask to join a confidence pool. I already slot them in because they're desperate for any sort of action. Seth and Kyle. Gentlemen, how we living?
Greetings.
I'm feeling good. I am feeling good. I've how many have I picked wrong in the playoffs so far? I only think I picked like 2 games wrong, maybe.
Not
Don't
bad.
give a shit. Seth, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm bouncing back emotionally from the Vikings loss in the first round of the playoffs. But the games went as I wanted them to over the weekend in the divisional round. So I was happy about that. And otherwise thriving.
I've only picked 1 game wrong, actually. So shout out me.
And most importantly, I still have my quarterback in our fantasy playoff matchup. And no one else has Joe Burrow. So it's going to be Joe against Jalen.
Pretty much.
It's not a concern for me. Because Devontae will be going off.
If the Chiefs make the playoffs, there's like
if the Chiefs make the playoffs,
the Chiefs, the Super Bowl, I think there's like 2 different teams that have someone other than Kelsey. Ideally, though, for me and you, Seth, it's Eagles versus Bengals, and it's just a QB duel.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I wouldn't mind that.
That's who I got. That's who I got penciled in right now. I know I'm sure I'm skipping to the end of this podcast, but
yeah, what the hell? Jesus. All right, everyone turn off the podcast now. That's it for us. All right, but we're not here to talk about our stupid little fantasy challenge. What we are here to talk about is the NFL. We just finished the divisional round and got the conference championships up this weekend. Very exciting time. Let's do a little recap of the divisional round, shall we? First game, Chiefs eke out a 7-point win against the Jags. My boys from Duval County finally failed, but no shame in losing to the champs. You know what I mean? We hold our head high after that season.
Okay. I think we need to come clean to the listeners, or you should come clean, but you're not going to. So we need to.
I'm the cleanest I've ever been. I just showered.
You've never been clean, so that doesn't say anything.
You truly disgust me.
So I should have. This is the one thing I should have prepared, Kyle, for the podcast today.
Yeah, probably.
Basically, what happened, everybody? Oh, I typed it up in a text that I just found you. So on the podcast, the last podcast you listened to, Sam came in with his Jaguars shirt, all gloating about how he won his Jaguars bet that they would make the playoffs, which already was going against his principle because he picked them not to make the playoffs on the pod. He tells us he's going to continue to wear his Jaguars shirt throughout the playoffs and cheer for the Jags every game. On the podcast, he picks them to win. Then he goes back on his word again, picks the Chargers to win in our confidence pool. Then, as the Chargers are winning, he gloats to us saying, oh, it's a good thing I picked the Chargers. Then the Jaguars come back, beat the Chargers. Then he doesn't pick them to beat the Chiefs, and they lose. And now he's coming to us saying as if they're his boys, when they're not his boys at all.
No, he's the worst kind of bandwagon fan too I've ever seen.
He jumps on and off the bandwagon depending on how the skies are looking. It's disgusting.
He acts like he bought a weekend pass on the Metro.
May I have a rebuttal?
No, but it's you running it, so I don't know what you could possibly say.
On this podcast, I predicted the Jaguars to win by 1 point, and they did. So just come to me if you actually want to get your picks right. That's all I'll say.
You didn't make the pick, though.
No, but I led others to water I couldn't drink from.
What the fuck does that mean?
That's the oldest phrase in the book.
What book?
The Bible, I presume. Anyway, listen. The big story coming out of this game is the Mahomes injury. He has a high ankle sprain, went out of the second quarter, was able to tough it out the rest of the game. Usually a high ankle sprain, you're out like 4 weeks, but Mahomes said that he's going to play next week. So not
I
sure
know.
what ankle he's planning on playing on. It better be a bionic one.
I feel like high ankle sprains, like, I don't know, in the second or third tier of like worst injuries you can have, right? Like it's not an ACL, it's not an Achilles, but it's like
the worst thing besides actually sometimes breaking it's even better, but
yeah, it's awful. Like some people take 2 months to come back from a high ankle sprain, and he's saying he's going to play next week. I believe that he'll play, but I just can't imagine that he's even like 50%, at least
Yeah.
mobility wise.
I would say 50% is best case scenario. I mean, I think he would not be playing at all if he was like an NBA player or like a wide receiver, anything but a quarterback, where he can maybe get away with like a 3-step drop and just launch.
but it
with
doesn't
his
even
arm.
matter. Yeah, I guess it's just all in his arm, but he still uses it's not like it's his left ankle where he doesn't need it to push off to generate power. Like it's his right ankle. It's the most important ankle.
You step with your left.
No, if you're right-handed like he is, I'll give you a demonstration.
Do the DAC if you can.
He's gonna come back. He needs to his right foot
Oh, I see what you mean.
generate power.
Because the left is his
Couldn't see
plant.
anything,
Yeah.
but yeah.
He clearly needs both ankles. I won't say not. I mean, like he could still pass the ball decently, perhaps with his know-how, but he's not going to be mobile at all, right, Kyle? I mean, he's not going to
I
be
would
able to be
imagine,
running for these
yeah.
first downs.
I mean, they taped him up really heavily at halftime, or what happened in the third quarter, right?
No, it was at halftime. Yeah, it
Was that
happened
halftime?
like late second quarter, and he wanted to go back in,
Oh, right.
and then they just held him out until half.
I mean, with
yeah,
his like smarts and know-how, it's almost like he is now like the 45-year-old Tom Brady in the pocket, right? Any bit of pressure, he's probably screwed.
he's probably still better than the 45-year-old Tom Brady because he's got this cannon for an arm still, even not being able to plant, or push off, I should say. But they're going to tape it up, so he'll basically be like
He won't be able to bend it.
immobile.
Yeah.
It'll just be like a splint almost.
Right.
And it'll just be a pocket passer. And I mean, we'll get to this game coming up, but with how the Bengals looked, like the Chiefs are not going to be favored, at least by smart bettors in the next round.
We'll talk about how the betting line moved there because it was very interesting, actually. So,
I mean, in my opinion, the Bengals were going to win with Mahomes healthy anyway. So
let's save that for later. The Jaguars' future looks pretty bright, especially given the moribund division that they come from, right? I mean, you look around the division, the Colts, the Titans, and the Texans, none of them know who their quarterback is next year, I would say. And then with the emergence of Trevor Lawrence, it seems like the Jaguars could win a few division titles in the future, right, Kyle?
yeah, I mean, definitely. Add to the fact that next year they'll be adding Calvin Ridley, who should be extremely well rested. I mean, Kirk showed out this year. I think they found their slot receiver in Zay Jones. ETN, proved what he could do on the ground. I feel like they should be using him in passing situations more, but they seem to still kind of split that or lean a little more towards like JaMychal Hasty. We'll see what happens.
Have you
next
seen
year.
ETN try to catch the ball, though? It's like the least fundamental thing I've ever seen. Like
I
he's
could
good
be
once
wrong,
he has the
but
ball in his hands, but I don't
I'm
know
pretty
if
sure he
knows how to
caught
catch
quite
it.
a bit of passes in college.
Yeah. I mean, in college, it's easier. Have you seen him catch the ball? It's like the worst fundamentals I've seen. Someone's got to coach him up.
Like,
Get on
you really know how to critique fundamentals in
that.
football?
Just see me out there on Thanksgiving. I'll tell you what.
Would y'all, I mean,
Yeah, he had 48 receptions his last year in college.
That's
wary.
college. Welcome to the pros.
I feel like Sam watched him like dropped 3 balls and now he thinks his fundamentals are bad.
Yeah, he was on my fantasy team. You better believe I was locked into him dropping those balls.
So thinking about Jaguars in general, would you say the Jaguars have a brighter future than the Chargers? And would you also say you'd take Trevor Lawrence over Justin Herbert for their careers? Or is that just recency bias?
I think
Early to
it's recency
say.
bias.
Yeah.
I still think Herbert's a better quarterback
thrower.
overall, but I mean,
Yeah.
I can't trust that staff, coaching
It's
staff
almost
by
the
any means.
organization.
Yeah, the entire organization. They're not to be trusted.
I agree with that. Herbert definitely didn't play well down the stretch of that Jaguars game, but it's almost as if their head coach didn't understand that he was allowed to hike the ball with not that many seconds left on the clock. Like he thought maybe they got extra points for hiking it with 20 seconds left on the play clock. So, and he wasn't fired either. So
They fired the offensive coordinator at least.
that should help.
I never
Hopefully.
know like how much of that kind of stuff is on the head coach or the OC.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Probably depends on the team, but either way is inexcusable.
Yeah. I would say, I mean, the Jaguars have a clearer path forward, I feel like, because the Chargers still have the Chiefs in their division, you know? I mean, the Jaguars could be in the playoffs every year for the next 5 years just due to their division if none of those quarterbacks, the new quarterbacks in their division pop. So it'd be interesting
Correct.
to see.
Yeah.
I mean,
And-
you say that, but with an extra wild card team, you know, compared to previous years, like I feel like the Chargers will still be able to make the playoffs
Mhm.
if they're at all decent, like they were this year, you know. But maybe
Just-
it's a tougher matchup. Like,
But
I mean, for both of them, I think it's going to be hard to get past like the Bengals, Chiefs, and Bills,
Definitely.
at least in
Yeah.
the short term.
yeah,
So-
I don't think any of us besides Sam will probably say that they're Super Bowl contenders and then they won't make it. And he'll say, see, I told you they would never make it to the Super Bowl. But I mean, they'll be contending with 2 rookie quarterbacks next year in their division. And then who the hell knows what the Titans are going to do? It doesn't seem like they're ready to give Malik even a chance.
I'm not ready to give Malik a chance.
Ryan Tannehill, really, what was he without AJ Brown?
He was who we thought he was.
Depends on who we are, but yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be if you're a non-Bengals, Chiefs, Bills, AFC team, you got some tough sledding ahead of you. It was like when the Colts and the Patriots were atop the AFC for all those years, right?
Certainly seems like that. I mean, this is the Chiefs, what, 5th straight conference championship
Yeah,
game appearance.
correct.
So they could easily go another 5. And obviously, Joe Burrow had his moment in the press conference saying, hey, their championship window is his entire career. Hard to argue with him so far. And despite like the Bills kind of falling apart, I think we're all still high on the Bills going forward. And Josh Allen maybe doesn't look quite as invincible as we thought he was at the beginning of this season, but it's not like they're going downhill either. So
Let's just hit that game now. Let's stop dancing around it because that was the most important game, like long-term legacy wise or something. You know what I mean? It felt like the most weighty game, right?
definitely, yeah.
The Bengals smacked around the Bills, absolutely just gave it to them 27-10. It wasn't even that close. I'm not surprised the Bengals won. I am a little surprised that it was just never in doubt. It was just a slug of just beat down, blowed out. I think that's what they do to your hair at the hairdresser. But
Mhm.
they dominated in every facet of the game. Both of their offensive defensive lines just absolutely dominated the Bills. Every play, every time
Their offensive line was also missing 2 starters.
right.
Yeah. I mean, that was
And-
one of the stories of the game, right? Was their offensive line. And that was, I mean, last year, that was the big thing with the Bengals. And we saw Joey Burrow like getting sacked over and over and over. And then they went out and tried to improve the offensive line over the offseason. And then they had injuries so that those improvements didn't even really materialize. And then their offensive line was still just really good. So a little bit wild. But maybe those players are just showing everybody that they're just as good, and maybe they should have been starters, at the beginning of the year. But
Well, I
or
think
they just
it
had a
also
deep offensive line.
they definitely do, but it also goes to show just how bad the Bills' defensive line is without Von Miller.
Without
Like
Bond.
they
Yeah.
have no studs on that line, and every time the Bengals touched the ball, whether it was a run or a pass, it seemed like they were gaining 6 to 8 yards every time, no problem. Just march up and down the field on them.
You know what the most interesting thing to me though is, right, is kind of looking back on the Bills season. Everyone is so high, obviously, on Josh Allen, and I guess rightfully so, as like an athlete, but he was turnover prone before Brian Dabble came in to the system. Dabble.
Ball. No.
I say it how I'd like, you know me.
Do you have a problem?
We've been over this. I went to speech therapy for a lot of my life. Yes.
Okay, good. Me too. But it's only ours for me, though.
Yeah, no, it's just strange names essentially for me. But he leaves. Well, once he's there, right? I think the Bengals, while he's there, are like first or second least turnovers in the league. I want to say something like that. First year out, right? He's now with the Giants. Giants have the second least amount of turnovers in the NFL. And then the Bills, I think they led the NFL in total third in total turnovers. They had 13 lost fumbles, all of which came from Josh Allen. 14 interceptions as well.
Yeah,
and
the fumbles have been a problem.
What was interesting was, if you listen to the broadcast, I know sometimes Kyle doesn't like to hear the color commentators and play-by-play, but Tony Romo was going on and on about how
Mr. January,
the biggest critique of Josh Allen is the turnovers. And it just goes to show that's not the only factor of like winning, losing, because there were no turnovers against the Bengals, but they just still weren't good enough. Right. So it's like, you need to find that balance where you still have to take some risks and play the way Josh Allen is capable. And like, sometimes you're going to have turnovers that way, but you can't just eliminate those so much that you're just playing it safe and punting,
Right. Yeah. I feel like the biggest thing in that game too was, for whatever reason, and I don't think it really had much to do with coverage, he just could not complete a pass to Stephon Diggs at all. Everything was like 5 to 10 yards over his head or past him down the field. It was like, no matter what, whenever he decided to throw the Diggs, he had no accuracy, but he could hit any other receiver underneath. I was
Yeah, he was not very good in that game. But I will say the turnover thing is like, I don't mind a few turnovers, like Seth was saying, because like you look at Joe Burrow, he had 14 interceptions last year, 12 this year. Josh is around 10 to 14 every year. Like that's kind of what you want, honestly, is taking risks, but it's kind of like the fumbling is a big issue. He had almost as many fumbles this year just because he was trying to do too much. And I think that's in large part to the talent deficiency of this Bills team. I mean, besides Stephon Diggs, they have nothing on offense. Like Devin Singletary, Dawson Knox, Gabe Davis, these are all just guys. They're average at best. And he feels like he has to do everything himself.
Yeah, sure. But I feel like you can also kind of blame the offensive coordinator in that sense too, right? Because it didn't seem like that in the last couple of years when it was essentially the same cast of characters, but we had a higher completion percentage, less turnovers, just what seemed like a quarterback that was more confident in his teammates being able to make plays as he was able to make his own plays. Whereas now it seems like at any sense of a breakdown, he doesn't feel confident that he could throw it to pretty much anyone. His immediate thought now is back to just taking off with his legs.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like he trusts the new offense or something, and maybe that'll be better next year with more time together.
The other thing that stood out to me was just the arc of the seasons for these two teams. Like the Bills came off the last year where they had the heartbreaking loss to Kansas City in one of the greatest games that any of us have watched, right? And everyone's like picking the Bills preseason to go to the Super Bowl. They came out of the gates, like win their first couple of games. Everyone's like, are the Bills ever going to lose? You know, they end up dropping a few, right? But I feel like they peaked early and they were like so fired up to get revenge that they just peaked early in the season. And then Von Miller goes out and they start to have a couple injuries. And by the time we got to playoff time, not that they were like limping into the playoffs, but I feel like they weren't peaking. Whereas the Bengals started slow. Everyone's like Super Bowl hangover, what's going on? And then they've just been slowly ascending all year. And now I think they're playing the best that they've played all year.
Mhm.
And so I wonder if it's one of those, you know, kind of like where we see with NBA teams, whether it's LeBron's teams who don't care about the regular season, or the Warriors who sometimes coast in the regular season and turn it on in the playoffs. Or I think the Bengals like had the experience last year and saw what it took to get to the Super Bowl. And they did kind of the same thing last year where they didn't dominate in the regular season and then they went on a run in the playoffs. So I feel like they have a sense now of what that takes and the things that they need to do during the regular season to get themselves ready to be peaking in the playoffs. And the Bills are just like desperate to prove everybody wrong or to like have success that their franchise hasn't had in a long time. And they, you know, they sputtered out too early. They went for it and they didn't have the energy or the depth in the team to withstand the injuries or just like to keep that level of play throughout the whole season.
I mean, Bill Belichick famously says that like nothing matters before Thanksgiving. You know, like you need to be peaking later in the season, especially with this extra week added. It's a real give and take in the regular season, and you want to make sure you're peaking, you know, when the weather turns colder. And the Bills started out so hot, we're like, I think you're just gonna like blow out everyone and go 18-0, and then look at them now. So yeah, that's definitely a factor too. Shall we hit the Eagles Giants? Just an absolute another blowout. Yeah, shellacking is right. It's another beatdown blowout. Not ever close in this game. I mean, the Eagles went up 28-0. Really just underscores how absolutely despicable the Vikings are, that the Giants just got destroyed by the Eagles. I mean, not even the same class. It's gone. But man, I mean, the Eagles really just reminded us how dominant they are, right? Kyle, they sputtered down the stretch a bit similarly to the Bills, but with the healthy Hurts, they showed that they just are great in every facet of the game.
Yeah, I kind of write off their late season losses, just considering two of those losses were under Gardner Minshew, and not Hurts, and also missing pieces in their secondary as well. Really, the Eagles decided to the injuries that they were going to have. They decided that to happen at the perfect time in the season where they were able to lock up a first round bye, get all of those players that were not, you know, not having a full bill of health, come in to the divisional round fully healthy, fully rejuvenated, and just completely laid it down on the Giants. Sacked Daniel Jones 5 times, I think, hit him 8. There was just he was pressured on almost 3/4 of every drop, all of his dropbacks, like best secondary in the NFL too. So I mean, Purdy's I don't know how much we want to. That's okay.
Yeah, Purdy will probably have trouble against that secondary. Yeah. Seth, bright future for the Giants, though, it must be said. One would think. I think they're going to re-sign Daniel Jones and Saquon, and I just have so much confidence in their new coach that I think they just might hang around for a while, despite, you know, needing to rebuild some talent there.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle was talking about Brian Daboll earlier, and he's shown quite the prowess as the Giants head coach this year. Huge turnaround for Daniel Jones. from the beginning of the season, from last year, where it was like, all right, this guy isn't it. Who are the Giants going to get to rebuild around? And now it's kind of like, hey, he's the prototypical quarterback, like dual threat quarterback that you would want, right? He's kind of in that mold of Josh Allen, where he's a bigger quarterback. He can see over the defensive line. He's hard to tackle. He's fast enough, where he's a threat with his legs, and he's shown like good enough accuracy this year. So I agree with signing Jones and Saquon back.
Let's be reasonable with Saquon though.
With the emergence of Isaiah Hodgins, it's like
my boy,
hard to fully evaluate their wide receiver core and the other weapons on that offense. But I do feel like they come up a little short with like offensive firepower compared to the very top teams in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Giants fans are ecstatic compared to their expectations to start the year.
Yeah, I think Hodgins is a keeper. I could lose the rest of my receiver core, to be honest. If they just replaced all of them in the offseason, I don't think that would be a big problem.
Saquon supposedly, a report came out earlier today that he did decline a contract extension of $12 million with the Giants because he feels he deserves to be getting compensated similar to Christian McCaffrey in the $16 million a year range. He's not really wrong. They're probably the two best running backs in the NFL, dual threat wise.
I would give him a little less than Christian, but I could see it. I mean, he's had more of an injury history than Christian. I guess Christian.
I don't think you could say that. Yeah, no,
that's not true.
That's not true at all.
I guess Christian lately has caught up to him. It used to be Christian never missed a game, like his first.
And then
5,
the last
years.
3 years, he missed like half the season every year.
So maybe he'll flip flop. Maybe Saquon will be perfectly healthy in the back half.
We'd love to see that.
Yeah, I don't know. I would be careful. Just proceed with caution, Giants.
As long as the Bears don't go out and just spend $16 million. I know we have the cap space, but I don't think we need that.
Man, I would be
if
so
that's our
excited
last,
to watch
if
him.
that's the last piece that we add,
right.
I'm all for it.
Well,
if that's the first move that we announce, though, I will be pissed.
If we fill our other 27 holes, then maybe. And I'm not just talking on the football field. Let's recap the final night game. Niners squeak by the Cowboys 19-12.
Disgusting.
I gotta tell you, I'm a little disenchanted with Dak Prescott. I used to think that he was in the top maybe 10, maybe 12 quarterbacks in the league. And now I just think he's a worse Kirk Cousins.
He's not worse than Kirk Cousins.
Listen.
Who made it farther? You can't tell me he's worse.
Each game is not just about the quarterback. Okay, maybe he's not. I don't know. I'm ready to say anything right now because he was terrible. 2 interceptions. One of them was awful. He almost took a safety on the last drive of the game with like 30 seconds left. Did you see that? And somehow the guy just didn't tackle him.
That was bizarre play. Like the defensive lineman just ran straight into him.
Yeah.
And just like bumped him instead of wrapping him up. I'm like, what? Why? Yeah. Dak was rough for sure.
It's hard to say where he stands in the hierarchy of quarterbacks because I think Kirk Cousins would have beat the Bucs and then also lost to the Niners. So I don't really know like where to put him. You know what I'm saying?
The Bucs are a disgusting team. So, but then
I think he's right there though. I think he's like mediocre now. I don't know. I have no faith left.
He's still top 50% in the NFL in quarterbacks.
List them all right now, like we do every 4 weeks.
All right. Give me a second here.
All right. I'll start.
Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow.
I put Burrow over Allen now.
I'm not going in order. I'm just listing players.
I just want the listeners to know.
How dare you, Kyle?
Herbert, Rodgers, Lawrence, Hurts, obviously. How many is that?
7.
That's 7.
Lamar, give me Lamar.
Yeah, I guess Lamar if he's healthy. Geno,
This is where
Daniel Jones.
I think
Daniel Jones.
Tua.
Tua, yes, I agree with.
Yeah, see, that's why it's like Dak can sneak in. Like,
Yeah, then it's Dak.
After
At
you
that
get to
point.
10,
There's literally, yeah,
it's slim pickings, you know?
yeah.
Derek Carr, will you allow me?
No, not a fucking chance. He just
Russell
got
Wilson?
kicked out after getting an extension.
Russell Wilson?
No,
I'm glad I didn't bring him up.
Kenny Pickett was looking nice.
he's a rookie. No,
Brock Purdy?
no,
Brock did not make the same mistakes that Dak did in this game. That's all I'll say. Matthew
no.
Stafford?
I wouldn't say that's true. Brock had a couple throws that should have been intercepted, and the defense didn't catch it.
That
Like
is
he's
big
had
one for
also
sure,
a
and it
couple other
digs.
games,
Matthew Stafford?
I guess. And when he's healthy, I don't know what he's going to come back and look like now, though.
Kyler Murray, I hate, but honestly, probably better than
but we're
Dak.
still not at
Yeah.
15.
Jared
so.
Goff? Will you allow me?
Okay,
Goff's
so
probably up there. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Goff because I remember thinking about this like years ago, and they were the same draft class, and it was Dak, Jared Goff, and Carson Wentz. And I remember immediately afterwards, right? Carson Wentz is like an MVP candidate, and Goff is terrible. And then it's like, wow, what a big mistake, like drafting Goff first. And then since then, Carson Wentz went down the tank. He was terrible. Dak rose up, and we were like, oh my gosh, Dak's by far the best quarterback in this class. And that was true for a while. Goff then made a Super Bowl, and we're like, well, okay, Goff's pretty good, but is that just all Sean McVay? Maybe Goff it. And then we would have said Dak again. And now it's like Goff was actually pretty good with the Lions, and Dak is like sliding again. Wentz nowhere to be found. But it's just interesting how your evaluations of quarterbacks can change so much in 6 years, 7 years since their draft. And it makes you wonder how we're going to reevaluate like the Joe Burrow, Herbert, Tua class years to come, or the Justin Fields and crew, Lawrence. And
yeah, exactly. And crew is right. The right way to put it with Fields. Thank you. I'll say it perfectly right now. No one's going to argue with me. You ready? So he's just another one of those quarterbacks, it turns out, that if you have good blocking, you have, perfect talent around him, can make a run in the playoffs. But if not, he's not going to elevate the talent further than it would go otherwise, right? Similar to Jared Goff. If you have good blocking and good weapons for Jared Goff, he can run a good offense. But
I think you're saying,
not
though,
necessarily going to elevate them above what they would be based on their talent.
There's
And
only
I
like 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that I think we could say
I thought Dak
are like
was
game
one of them. I really
changers.
did. I at one point think Dak was one of them, but I just don't think so anymore.
And then there's the quarterbacks who make the rest of the team around them worse. And that's where we find Kirk Cousins.
Oh, man. And what really screwed Dallas up was that Pollard injury, because they don't have a lot of explosive players, again, which doesn't help Dak out. And when they lost Pollard, it was pretty clear just how slow they looked. The Niners defense so much faster than them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that could have, if they went just the other way on a single play, I feel like the game turns out a different way. Like that Kittle catch that everyone's like, oh my God, that's so amazing. Yeah, it's good hand-eye coordination, but like that defender that was back there, that safety that was back there, somehow not touching him whatsoever while he's
It was
bobbling
Trevon
that
Diggs.
ball. Yeah, how he doesn't touch him at all. Like even just a finger across the face mask and he doesn't catch that ball, in my opinion. That's like such a huge momentum shift right there. Like,
yeah.
Also, like I said, there was the 1 or 2 passes that I could remember where Purdy should have been intercepted, wasn't. That's happened to him a lot since he's become the starting quarterback. So, I mean,
he's got that juju.
Dak on the last, the punt return by Turpin in the end of the 4th quarter, like he made the choice to try to cut back inside for whatever reason, right towards the kicker, where if he would have just kept taking his momentum outside to the right, I feel like he could have very easily returned that kick and it's a tie game with like 2-3 minutes left. Like, it's just like so many small things that just go one way. And I think the Cowboys end up winning that game, which is why I'm not at all super confident that the 49ers are going to like kick the Eagles' ass or even win at all. I think the Eagles kind of handedly handed to him.
The Niners did definitely got lucky on a few plays. Like all the 50-50 plays, it seemed like went their way.
Yeah.
Except for that they fumbled a punt though, and like a few others. But they're just a better team than the Cowboys, in my opinion. And they were like very Chargers like in the way once they got a little bit of a lead, right? They milked every single second off the clock and just
Right. Yeah.
gave the Cowboys almost no chance to get back in the game. But yeah, I don't know about the Cowboys in the future. Like this team is constructed, it's just kind of a divisional round team. Like it's kind of like the Bills, where once you get past CeeDee Lamb, I mean, what kind of talent are you looking at, right?
Yeah,
I will say
you need to add someone over the offseason. I mean, Dalton Schultz has been good for what he is, but he also made huge mistakes on the final drive of that game.
boy, yeah.
Two
And
back-to-back huge mistakes.
Maybe the addition they make is really just another year of Gallup coming off the injury. You know, maybe that turns things around.
Could be,
I don't
but
know.
I feel like they've been saying Gallup is going to be the number 2 option for like the last 6 years, and it's never really materialized as you would want.
But it's like, if you think about it, right? Gallup's your number 2 there, but then you look at the other top teams in the NFL besides the Chiefs, because they're just an anomaly altogether. But like, and the Bills, I guess, but the Bengals, right? 2 definite star receivers. Tyler Boyd would easily be better than Michael Gallup on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Niners, who they just played, right?
The Vikings.
Honestly, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, the Niners, Ayuk is a better second option than literally anyone besides CD. So
I will
Devonta
say
Smith on the Eagles.
right.
Yeah. I will say I've been down on CD more than most, but he was awesome in this game. I mean,
I don't know how you could be
carried
down
them.
on him. He's a stud. Like,
Just, tempering, like I said, he was kind of like the same as Terry McLaurin when we did the wide receiver rankings, but man, he showed out this game and showed why he's the number 1. He almost carried them on their backs. All right, let's preview these 2 games this weekend, the conference championships. First game, Niners at the Eagles, 2 p.m. Sunday. Eagles are favored by 2.5, hasn't moved at all. I just love this game. I'm so excited for this game. Like, this is 2 heavyweights. Like, well, first of all, it feels like we got the 4 best teams, doesn't it?
It does.
That are, it sometimes doesn't always happen with football because it's one game, but I think Chiefs, Bengals, Niners, and Eagles clearly are the cream of the crop in the NFL. And in this matchup, we have the best defense, the first defense in DVOA in the Niners against the third offensive DVOA of the Eagles and first in the NFC. So it's really just 2 heavyweights fighting it out. Seth, Kyle already tipped his hand perhaps as to who he's leaning towards. How are you feeling? I know you've been hot on the Niners before in your storied picking career.
Yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, like I find myself cheering for the Niners. And I would want to cheer for them against the Eagles, but it's like the classic dilemma of how much do you weigh how well the teams did in the previous round going forward, right? Like the Eagles looked way better than the Niners in the divisional round. So do you say that, well, they're just going to carry their momentum and they're clearly a better team, or is that just it's so dependent on matchups and 49ers have all these weapons that Kyle Shanahan gets to play with. So I think to be like the contrarian to Kyle, I think I probably will take the Niners in this game. I'm not super confident in it. I think it's a fun story with Brock Purdy, right, being this rookie, and he's got all the weapons in the world that he could ever want. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you have Jalen Hurts as this new dual threat quarterback, and he's got plenty of weapons too, but the offense is really more centered around like what Jalen Hurts does well, as opposed to like Brock Purdy, obviously.
Yeah.
So I think it's an interesting clash of styles, and it might just come down to like whose defense can stop the other.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm riding with obviously the Eagles all day.
Yeah.
One of the other things that came about from that Niners win to get them to this spot is both of their running backs, one of which just returned from IR, not just a few weeks ago, and their star running back that they had a massive trade for earlier this season are now both day-to-day and injured, and didn't look that great against Dallas, who we know they have their defensive stars as well, but the Eagles by no means have a lack of defensive talent. Like I said, they have the best secondary in the league. Their pass rush is, I'm pretty sure, top of the league as well. Especially with who is that? Hassan Reddick. Just last week he was in every single play in the backfield. So
they had the third most sacks in NFL history this year.
Right, yeah, 70 sacks this year, I think.
They're almost
like
the anti-Bills.
So it's like I think what Dallas laid out was kind of the groundworks as to how to contain the threats of Debo and McCaffrey. Now you got McCaffrey banged up. You got Mitchell a little banged up. They're both going to play. Are they going to be 100%? Who knows? Probably not. And I don't trust rookie Brock Purdy, who's been very lucky in his turnover-worthy plays not being turnovers so far this year, to kind of continue to luck box that against. I understand DVOA says that the 49ers are the best defense in the NFL, but I would argue that if the Eagles had a fully healthy defense on the stretch, they'd be 1 and 2 probably ranked.
What does luck box mean?
What do you mean?
I don't know. You said luck box. I just don't know what it means.
Yeah, he had luck boxed into it not happening. Like it was just a strike of luck that those turnovers.
Luck, but what is the
turnovers.
box in there for?
Pretty sure that's a pretty common phrase, at least for gambling.
For gambling. This is like when he said, what is it, like 2 birds in a stone or something? What did he say last time?
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone?
No, what did he say last time? It was like a bird cage or something, or like a bird, catbird seed. That's what he said last time.
Yeah.
Catbird seed.
A player who
Luck
box. A player whose success is a result of good luck. Why don't they
Yeah.
just say luck though? I don't understand.
A person
he's
so
luck
full
box.
of luck in poker that is disgusting and ridiculous. That's how I feel about Brock Purdy.
Why can't you just say lucky though? I don't understand.
It's a term. I don't know why you're like getting upset and arguing it.
I'm not
I didn't come
upset.
up
I
with
want to
it.
know the etymology of it.
I'm pretty sure, like I said, it originated in poker.
Yeah. What's the box though? Damn, it's why there's nothing on there.
Frosted Flakes.
All right, I'll have to dive into this later. Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you, Kyle. I don't know. This is a tight game. Wouldn't be surprised if either team won, but
Eagles by 10 plus.
That's spicy. You gonna buy an Eagles shirt and wear on the pod next week?
I mean, Kyle's been consistent with his Eagles fandom since the beginning of the year, so I'll give him that.
Me too.
Unlike some people.
I bet on them to
teams.
be first in the NFC. You don't hear me brag about it. I mean, I have bragged about it every podcast, but I think when it really comes down to it, I'm going to pick the Eagles because they're home, and I just prefer Hurts to Purdy. Going to give the edge to the Hurts there. 26-24 though, close game.
Mm-hmm.
You heard it here first. Hey, if the fans find another lacrosse game to tailgate it starting at 8 a.m. the same day, I mean, could be another 10+ win, right, Kyle?
They don't even need that, but it's going to happen. So,
all right. Bengals Chiefs, the rematch. 5:30 Sunday. Bengals favored by 1. The line started at Chiefs -1.5. But bettors everywhere listen to Seth pleas to hammer the Bengals and have since moved to a Bengals favorite. I mean, this is all due to Mahomes' injury. If Mahomes was perfectly healthy, this line would have been probably 3 or 4. You
I
can
don't
disagree.
know.
You can disagree with, you would have bet against it maybe, but that's what the line would have been.
I don't think it would have got past 2.5.
Really, I think
No.
I think with
No
people on
way.
the Bengals, I think it might have. I mean,
No
look how much
chance.
this line moved right now.
It moved 2 points in favor of the Bengals because the Mahomes injury, but so they set that line originally -1. I would assume,
fucked up.
assuming that he's not injured, and now that his
Clearly, they
injury
said it
happened,
wrong. No, they must have known he's injured. Vegas always knows. That's why they build all those casinos every year. Regardless of the line, you guys are both going to pick the Bengals. So just tell me why.
last week,
You're
prime
speechless.
I mean, why wouldn't we? The Bengals look like the best team in the league. I think Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes, like Sam, you said Burrow's ahead of Allen now in your rankings.
Yeah.
Like, I think Mahomes is still a half tier above Burrow or like a couple steps ahead, but it's not like it's Burrow against Purdy,
Right.
It's like fully healthy. They're mostly comparable.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the hobbled Mahomes, you would definitely give the quarterback edge to Burrow. And then the whole rest of the team, other than like Travis Kelce, like I think the Bengals have a much better team overall. You never know with their offensive and defensive lines, like how much of their O-line success, like you said, Sam, was due to the Bills not having a good pass rush. But I don't know, they looked really good. I think they're confident. They've beaten the Chiefs like 3 in a row.
3 straight times, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like Kyle with his Eagles. Like I'm pretty confident in the Bengals. Obviously, Mahomes can pull something out of his ass, and maybe the tape job is like just so miraculous. But I'd be pretty shocked if the Chiefs were in the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, we saw them. I get that Mahomes didn't play a few drives, but we saw the Jaguars put up a decent fight against them. They only lost by a score. And I just can't imagine, obviously, but we haven't seen much of T. Higgins in the playoffs yet. Like, it's been kind of the Jamar Chase show because they really haven't had to open it past Jamar Chase at all. So, like, I feel like you always think of Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow when you think of the Bengals. But again, we've been talking about for I feel like years now how good T. Higgins is in his own right. And it's like he hasn't had to do anything still. So sure, maybe they put some attention on Jamar Chase, but good luck then containing T and Tyler Boyd and Mixon turning it on last week finally after a pretty slow previous couple weeks. Their defense as well has been leaps and bounds better than anything I could have expected. I feel like they did this last year too, where they really stepped up at the end of the year and into the playoffs. And here we are now, same situation. I don't foresee them just kind of rolling over at this point. It's Super Bowl or bust.
I don't really disagree. And I was trying to think of the argument for the Chiefs because I knew that you were both going to pick the Bengals, and I don't like when we all agree. It certainly worries me, and it should worry Bengals fans. But I just like, could the Chiefs, the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce triumvirate gut through a win at home with the frenzied crowd behind them They could. I mean, obviously this line is only 1, so Vegas isn't as confident as you are in the Bengals. But I just don't
You
see
understand how
myself.
they set those lines, right?
Jesus
Do we
Christ.
need
Here
to
we
go over
go.
this again?
But I just don't foresee I just don't foresee the Bengals losing either. I mean, I feel like they can shut down Travis Kelce and not let him have 14 catches like the Jaguars did. Right.
Yeah, no,
One would hope.
not a chance, in my opinion.
And, Joe Burrow is the truth, and big game Lou on the other side, Lou Anarumo is gonna find a perfect game plan against the Chiefs. Burrow is literally playing like the best quarterback in the league right now. I think
In the AFC Championship game last year, Mahomes posted a 1.4 QBR in the second half in overtime. Thanks to the big game lose adjustments at halftime.
does kind of feel like they figured them out, right?
Yeah, I mean, Lou has got Andy Reid and Mahomes' number like no other.
Yeah.
He's living there rent free.
I think if Mahomes was perfectly healthy, I would have picked the Chiefs just to kind of go against you guys, but I just can't stomach it with that injury. So I think we're looking at a Bengals-Eagles Super Bowl.
I know it's going to be a fantastic Super Bowl as well.
That would be awesome.
That is the great thing about, like you said, Sam, it feels like the top 4 teams made it this far, other than the Vikings, obviously. And so what it means is, like, no matter what the matchup in the Super Bowl is, it's going to be great, I feel like.
Yeah. I mean, if we get Chiefs Niners, which none of us expect, but if it does happen, that's a rematch of a couple years ago. If we get Bengals Eagles, I mean, we get Burrow versus Hurts, right? And then if we get
And
Bengals,
probably
Niners,
we probably get
round 3.
the 2 best receiving groups in the NFL against each other as well.
If it's Bengals Eagles,
Yeah.
yeah,
You have to say those are the 2 best receiving. I mean, I guess once you get
Vikings,
past,
but yeah.
I guess
yeah, but the second receivers are better than Thielen at this stage of his career.
right, definitely. Yeah.
Although KJ Osborne, sneaky coming on as the number 2 perhaps. So, but I mean, come on, Devonta
Hawkinson, if we're counting tight ends.
Yeah, I think you have to. I guess I was thinking about that because after Devonta, there's no one besides Goddard. Right, yeah, it's just Goddard. But then on the Bengals side, you get to Boyd, but then after Boyd, I wouldn't be saying like
Hayden Hurst has
Hayden Hurst. He's got his moments, sure, but who doesn't?
Yeah, if you go strictly wide receiver, I think definitely. I think you got the best 2. But man, I would be intrigued by any matchup, and I'm really happy with both these matchups are going to be must-see TV. Put your popcorn on, put the kids to bed at 2 p.m. and watch both these games. I mean, it's going to be barn burners. You guys excited?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I need you. You work with this Jacob guy, right?
Yeah.
I need you.
Shout out Jacob if he's listening.
Hints all week that I need. Does he listen to this?
I can't remember. I got some of the new engineers to listen to this, but I can't remember.
Well, either way, I
if
think
you're there,
everything
shout out.
I've talked about, I'm sure he knows that I'm going Eagles, but I need you to be dropping hints that he needs to be picking the Niners. This is probably my best chance to get ahead.
Okay.
You can't get ahead when the Eagles lose, though. So
I was gonna say, what?
Right, I know. Lose? Yeah. Then I whatever. It is what it is. But
yeah,
I'm that confident. The Eagles aren't going to lose.
You heard it here first. We had one such outburst in our last podcast involving the Vikings, and that didn't turn out so well. So we'll see if you have the same luck.
So who? I had an outburst?
No, Seth said the same thing. He said he's very confident the Vikings are going to win, and they're sitting at home right now.
Have you seen their team, though?
They're probably not at home. They're probably in Bora Bora or something.
I heard they booked plane tickets with Cliff Kingsbury.
To Thailand, one way. I'll tell you what, Dalton Schultz is going to be booking the same ticket after the end of that game. My God. Celtics lost to the Magic, by the way, if anyone's wondering.
Did they?
Yeah.
That broke our streak.
You guys seem to be losing the Magic a lot this year.
Shout out Jonathan Isaac.
We had like
Extreme
9
right
straight
winger
wins.
Jonathan Isaac returns to the court and just absolutely decimates the Celtics.
More points than minutes played.
Who do
He's
we
finally
even...
scored more points than chapters in his book.